Welcome to Disrupted Science, the occasional conversation between the authors of the upcoming book, How the Internet Disrupted Science, now available for pre-order. I'm Kent Anderson here with my co-author Joy Moore, and today is Wednesday, December 17th, 2025. Hey, Joy.
Hey, Kent.
Nice shirt.
You too.
Yeah, we're wearing our total selection of merch. It's the
Yeah,
holidays, people. If you want some, email us.
exactly. The Disrupted Science and FRFK merch is available.
I swear, I want to wear the FRFK shirt everywhere, every day, all the time.
Mhm.
That guy's doing so much damage. But we've got some nice things to talk about. One is we're going to be conducting a radio interview. Not entirely sure when it's going to air, but it's going to be next week. And we just got the interview guide, and it's very good. So we're excited for that. So it looks like it'll be a good one.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And what else do we have going on? Oh, and then we had a post today that once again, I've learned that watching Boston Bruins hockey leads to late night blogging, apparently, because things get going and they come out of nowhere. And luckily, I've learned to blend the two. So I learned to, do all the things that you need to do to write a fairly, I hope, decent blog post or newsletter post, whatever. And at the same time enjoy a hockey game. So, and the Bruins really brought it last night. So there were some beautiful goals. So I was typing away, and then I would just find myself, whooping and raising my arms like a madman, and then going back to typing. So it was quite a scene when you read that post about open evidence. There was a lot going on behind that.
Yes.
You were pitching in stuff, and the text stream was going fast, and the hockey,
hmm
the boarding. There was a great, nice, intense game, and yeah. So anyhow,
Yeah, and
there's a story behind every post.
well, yes, and we had looked at open evidence a few months back and didn't pay too much attention, but the other behind the scenes is we got a anonymous tip from a
Yes,
friend of the pod who said, "Did you want to look at this again?" And we are both like, "Dang it."
yeah, they pulled a thread, and it just kept coming. But that's the problem that we sniffed out remains in the product, which is that whatever you put into it, it comes back with forced and false authority, right?
hmm
And that's, I think, a gambit that has to happen for investment level products that are trying to get big money out of deep pockets. They have to look like they are delivering answers when science doesn't really deliver answers, it delivers findings and claims for other scientists to use to do more science. That's what science does. So it's just a total mismatch, and it's a bad product, and it's bad software, and it should be taken off the market in science,
Well,
in my
it's
opinion.
yes, I agree with you on all those points. And it is another example of um, let's just see what AI can do.
Right.
And the product isn't really a product. It's not a product that anybody needs. There are evidence-based medicine point of care resources that have been very carefully curated.
Hmm.
And so this is just another example of a venture capital backed tech company trying to get more traction in a space that looks lucrative.
Hmm.
And the fact that it is based on users providing their NPIs is the dead giveaway that this is
Hmm.
a data collection system. It is not a answer
Right.
providing
Right.
product.
If you aren't paying for the product, you are the product. But let's get to the core theme of today, which is that scientific publishing is in a double bubble, OA
Mhm.
and AI. All right, so today we're talking about what we have come to conclude is that there's a double bubble going on in scientific publishing. We are at the end stage of what we consider to be have been the OA bubble. And we're at probably an inflection point or midpoint on what might be a shorter duration AI bubble, we hope, but it's a bigger bubble. And we want to talk about sort of how one led to the other, how they
Hmm.
interact, and where we think things are going from here. So, but and
Yeah,
other people have been talking a lot about the bubbles.
they've been t a lot of people have been talking about the AI bubble, and it's getting a lot more mainstream, as we've all seen in the different news coverage and you know and uh, thought leaders and things like that. But there was something that came up the other day when I was listening to Kara Swisher's podcast and she interviewed Sam Harris about just kind of what's going on in tech and things like that. And I'm not a super Sam Harris fan. But, I've followed him over the years. But he did say something, he said a lot of things during this interview that really resonated. But the one that kind of inspired me to um, share it with you, Ken, is he said in response to tech, we've built this digital infrastructure and invited our enemies to weaponize it against us, and we've monetized their efforts to drive us crazy.
Hmm.
And that comports almost perfectly with what we've been talking about in terms of the scientific publishing platform infrastructure, the open access uh, business models and ideology that have been pushing more content through.
Hmm.
And now we're starting to see the fact that it's coming against science, it's coming against the public, and we've made money off of it the whole way.
Yeah, and that's the most shameful part of it is that people have been undercutting and been participating in the undermining of science for money for years through the OA movement, and the tolerating predatory publishers. And I was thinking earlier today that if I hear someone use a sort of a triggering phrase for me is going to be just another, right? It's
Oh,
just another business model, and I'm sure
yeah.
with these deals with open evidence and whatever NEJM did with its AI companion, I'm sure it's just another technology contract or it's just another licensing deal. But
Hmm.
these are much different. And as you pointed out, OA publishers, and there's an illustration in the post blog on the newsletter post on the Geyser that goes along with this. They have been providing the inventory for AI companies to monetize scientific papers to the detriment of scientists and the public. And it actually started out very much thinking that the idea would be if we make all this stuff free, computers can create a utopia for us. And that's the same storyline that we are on. And it's just wrong. But the other thing that we were talking about is how OA and AI share an inevitability narrative, right?
Yeah. So
OA
let's
was
let's
always inevitable, right?
right. So let's start. Let's unpack that.
Hmm.
How are OA and AI economies aligned?
Right. So they're utopian, right? So they all have this idea that if we just change our approach to information and let computer people run things, that we will achieve something that we couldn't achieve by regular dumb humans handling it, right?
Hmm.
Because computer people are smarter. And I think that's, one of the things I remember, an anecdote I remember is that Peter Suber and Dana Boyd were uh, were very much in favor of Mendeley being acquired by a tech company, and they loved Mendeley. But when it was acquired by Elsevier, they pulled back all of their endorsements of it because it had been acquired by a publisher. And
Right.
so this worship of tech goes back a long way. So it was this kind of, elevation of technology as a path to utopia. You have, open access movement seeing that, and then AI with the singularity and all of that, and then the inevitability narrative that this has to happen, it's going to happen, don't stand in the way.
Right. If you stand in the way, then you're against something that could potentially be better.
Right.
It's
Yeah, and they both have scale narratives.
hmm
They both have to be, the more the better.
hmm
And the path to the solution, or the utopia is always through more information, more compute, more chips. It's they're both based on the idea that David is beating Goliath, but now in both cases, Goliath is bigger than ever.
And that goes back to the narratives both for OA and AI is that they're democratizing.
Right.
And that this David versus Goliath is like the little guy, the long tail is going to win out in the end. And it's complete bullshit. I
Right.
mean, we've seen that time and
Yeah.
time again.
Yeah.
Um, but people are afraid to call it.
Yeah, I mean, what these systems they aren't democratizing, because they don't want democratic controls. They don't like copyright. They want to usurp it, even though copyright's baked into most democracies and is actually something that gives individuals natural rights that they don't have otherwise, over their creative outputs. They can transfer them and they can share them and do whatever they want, but it's their right. So copyright is democratizing. If you wanted to be democratizing, you'd support copyright. But Creative Commons and other things have confused all of that and have been driven by this kind of techno-utopian ideal. And then both systems are centralizing, right? They're not
Right. And that's
democratizing.
exactly. And that's where the economics have proven themselves out.
Hmm.
It's anti-democracy, it's centralizing, and it's more uh, top-down control,
Yep,
and with less opportunities for individuals to succeed.
right. Yep, and they both have participated in sort of shell games, right? Circular financing, funders starting journals and paying and funding research to go into their funded journals, and have issuing mandates. And now you have the US government issuing mandates about not regulating AI, and it's very top down. It's not grassroots, and all the grassroots evidence from authors looking at the OA movement, editors experiencing life with the OA movement, and now people with AI tools imposed on them, is that the grassroots don't like any of it. they
Hmm
they're all like, turn off the Copilot, turn off the Gemini, turn off the autocomplete of my sentences. And with OA, the authors are like, I want to retain all my rights. I'll put the most restrictive CC license on if you're going to make me do a CC license, or I will retain my copyright and go with a regular publisher. And then it's just everything's kind of petered out because people have caught on to the fact that this is kind of an exploitation game on both
hmm
sides.
And it's exhausting.
Yeah, it is exhausting. Well, and they both also enable bad players, right? So you have the video that I did of a system where you can write a fake scientific paper in 20 minutes, right? You
Yeah.
can produce that, and it's shocking that you can do that. But this has a long history through SciGen and all those other things and all the sting operations and all that. So we've seen this for years and years and years. And then this financial model of OA incentivizes bad players because it's cash on the barrel head, pay for play transactional publishing.
hmm
And predatory publishers did not exist before that existed.
Right.
And so it's a direct line. And then on the AI front, you have all of these, like you said, with open evidence. You have this, we're going to raise a lot of money so we can capture a lot of information about physicians
hmm
and hopefully sell that back to the market, in some way, shape, or form, or build out something else, But there's a exploitation game here. And then you have AI being used by people like RFK Jr. and others to flood the market with bad papers. You have paper mills, you have all this stuff. So that's where they kind of meet up. So,
hmm and the idea that AI is better at guiding policy, I think, is another overarching theme.
yeah, what's the new word? Algocracy?
Yes,
So the
yes.
algorithm democracies. So I think one of the countries, I forget which one it was one of the stands, I think, is just trying to put in place and and they call it an avatar, but it's really an AI, an LLM that they want to have manage their bidding process because there's been
hmm
too much corruption. And there's the whole thing with Gil Duran and all of that about how these tech lords are trying to create nation states that are outside of democratic control. But that's a whole rabbit hole I don't want to go down right now.
Yeah. But both open access and AI in the consumer market as we understand it now, and also in the business market where it's been embedded into workflows, have had limited proven value to
Hmm.
who they were purported to be serving.
Right.
Um, and at the same time, they've had very proven poor outcomes for the rest of us, the
Yep.
public.
Yep. Well, another overlap comes to mind. There was just a story about, two crystallography papers that were published in Nature journals by Google, and they were claiming that they discovered, thousands or millions or whatever new crystal forms, right?
Yeah, just because they were just sitting around going, how can
Yeah,
we
let's
find some more crystals? Let's
yeah,
put it
push a
into
button
our
and say and
computer.
pay,
Yeah.
make patterns. And those papers look like they're going to be retracted. They were both published open access.
In
They
Nature.
I think I forget which exact journals they were in, but some part of the Nature portfolio, which is another issue we will have to tackle someday. But the issue is that the databases that are being used to be public now have to be blocked or papers coming out of them summarily rejected because there's so much exploitation going on. And part of the story was that led to these papers being called into question is one of the Cambridge crystallography databases said, most of these are redundant with known crystals and
hmm
that we know they're duds. they, they're pretty, but you can find them
Yeah.
in, dime stores out west and, buy them, but that's about it. So,
But I guess you could, I don't know. If you are an editor at Nature and you got a paper from Google saying we used AI to discover something no man has ever discovered before, you'd be tempted to publish it, because what if you didn't?
well, that's the pornography of doubt that you noted, right? So there's
hmm
what if AI is great? What if OA does lead to a utopian world in the future? What if? And I think that, that's okay. But, it gets back to, claims have to be backed up by evidence. And the more radical the claims, the stronger the evidence has to be. And so I think that's where we get back into science should be, as a process, re-embraced as, okay, prove it. You
hmm
know, you're making these claims, prove it. And OA could have been, you know, brought out as, PLOS could have brought it out and everybody could have said, okay, well, it looks like you're making these open access. Let's see, we'll wait 10 years and see where you are. And by that point, they would have gone to bulk publishing and they would have seen financial straits and everybody would have gone, it doesn't work that well. And the papers would have been evaluated, more cautiously and probably seen to be second or third tier papers. And you're like, I don't know that open access experiment's working that well, right? Same with
hmm
AI. You don't need to, bring these things out into the world, but there are financial incentives, and that's the
Yeah.
that's the reason they both were rushed through the markets, was to make as much money as possible.
Right. Inventory is inventory, whether they are papers or GPUs. And so now we find ourselves in the situation where both open access and AI are enmeshed economically,
Yeah.
which is a very curious place to be
Yeah.
and potentially dangerous. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the past 2 or 3 weeks have been just wild on that front with, things that, especially with the top tier journals, it's so disappointing. I know you and I both have long and really kind of treasured histories with JAMA. I mean, we both really love that, that
Mhm.
brand and go back far with it. And to see it stumble like this in the AI era is painful. I mean, it really
Mhm.
is. And the same with New England Journal of Medicine. I adore that place. I've always
Mhm.
thought very highly of them. And then they go and not only stub their toe, but basically, fall down the hill and keep tumbling. And it's like, stop it. Just pick yourselves up, dust yourselves off, and get back to what you did so well. You were very good at that.
Well,
But
especially in this era when these trusted brands are needed more than ever to
exactly.
counteract craziness.
Right.
Um, and so,
Yeah, they've really abandoned their posts for the sake
Mhm.
of pursuing AI fantasies. And I also wonder how well anybody at those organizations really understands LLMs and what they do and what they don't do. I
Mhm.
mean, they're text extruding machines, right?
Yes.
Or as
Emily said
Emily and
magic,
Alec, magic
yeah,
beans.
magic beans. Just
That's their new word for it. And I did a little bit of research. You know how they have the sparkle
uh-huh.
icon?
Yeah, what's
So
that about?
yeah, so it has a whole legacy, and this graphic designer did a nice write-up on it. And I'm so grateful to him, but I can't find him anywhere to ask him. I kind of interview him about it because it was really great. But the sparkle icon used to be associated with cleanliness, right? So
Oh,
yeah, so
like
like a lot
Mr.
of brands in the
Mr.
50s.
Clean's little like
Yeah,
glint
and
in his eye.
Philips, Philips used to have like a spark. They had the sparkles, and then Subaru has the Pleiades. That's
Mm-hmm.
what Japanese word for the Pleiades is Subaru. So they have the stars, but that's directly related. It's not metaphorical, right? But for the metaphorical part, first initially it meant cleanliness. Then it was appropriated by technology to mean magic. So you
Mm-hmm.
would have it a sparkle icon for like clean up this photo or remove,
Oh yeah, yeah.
noise from this recording
Mhm.
or whatever. It's like the magic button.
Yeah, in Photoshop, that's that little magic button, which I
Yeah, you
didn't
remember.
really understand enough how to use it, but did things, and I'm like, okay, that's better.
Right. And so now it has become the kind of, you know, graphic design motif for AI, which is more magic, right? It's just magic. You don't need to understand it.
Yeah.
You just let us. You just don't worry your little head about this. We've got it. It's a any sufficiently advanced technology is perceived to be magic, and this is our magic. But I hate to tell you, technologists, it ain't that advanced. It's a big bag of Scrabble tiles, and one of the questions I have is, do we, for the publishers listening to this who have licensed content into these systems, so all of those words get tokenized, right? I'm thinking about that study that is in open evidence about fluoride and IQ. And
Hmm.
let's say that, like all the experts are asking them to do, that JAMA finally retracts that very bad paper, right?
Hmm.
What happens to it in open evidence if every word has been tokenized? Do they actually have an audit trail to where it came from, where every word came from, and how it's weighted in the system? How do you actually extract a paper
How do you
from an AI system, an LLM? Do they
how do you
know?
how do you kill magic beans? Is there
You got to chop down the whole vine. That's the story. That's the only way you kill the giant. You
right?
got to just chop down the whole vine, people. And that's what we're saying. Just chop down the whole vine. Okay.
Yeah.
Go back to you got the, and you don't even have a golden goose. The eggs are fake. So, but they're little plastic eggs. It was all a ruse. But this is the issue, right? So you've got LLMs have learned how to. They've been taught various forms, and they've had various output structures put on them to make them look more authoritative than they actually are.
Hmm.
They've learned how to make citations, and they make fake ones all the time. Nature just had another book retracted about AI ethics, which was full of fake citations.
I have to tell you,
I swear you
yesterday,
cannot make this stuff up.
I know, but what to add insult to injury, just after we were looking at that book,
Hmm.
the Springer Nature Google ad for their AI books followed me all over the internet yesterday. And that book was number one, and it was still at $169, and all the other ones were discounted for Christmas sale.
Oh, Lordy, I feel so bad for the staff there. So many bad decisions being made. But then you have, you know, libraries are licensing big packages of books and journals, but they're AI pigs and AI pokes. They don't know how much of that content is legitimate, how much of it is going to be pulled, and there's so much that it doesn't really matter. But they can't evaluate it all. They're just buying what they think they need to buy. So the
Or
commercial, oh,
or
go ahead.
even or even not buying it, just ingesting it, because
Right.
that has been part of the entire goal of to get more content into libraries to scholars and students at the lowest possible price.
Yep.
And so it's not just, are we getting value for money? It's they're getting flooded with stuff that is free and they don't know
Right.
whether or not it's any good.
Are we getting more?
They're just getting more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that gets back to how this all kind of intersects. It's like we've become a quantity-based information culture instead of a quality-based information culture. And because of that, and because there's so much out there, and you don't know the provenance of what an LLM has ingested, how much of it is their own bathwater. I mean,
Mhm.
this is just becoming, you know, very risky to a record that is supposed to be something you build upon.
And the more that's out there, the more is getting clicked on and getting cited, which is continuing to bump it up again.
Yep, it's a vicious cycle. So, and the answers are inadequate, right? It's always we just need more content, or we need more AI, or we need more computer systems, or we need more,
Or
whatever. It's not
or
never the answer is never just let's just stop.
well, no, but the other answer that is all too common now is, oops,
Right.
we'll try harder.
Yeah, well, it's the old Facebook playbook, right?
Yeah.
It's yeah, oh, we'll do better. We'll do better. And it's like, no, that's the Silicon Valley path to ignominy. That's how you're going to become like one of those people that will
We've
never,
we've
never
we've
recover your reputation.
right, we've invested in our safety experts. Um,
Right.
and they're out there patrolling the
Yeah.
perimeter to keep
I
all the bad stuff out. They're not. It's not a
That's right.
thing.
Yeah, we're the police, but we've hired another police force to guard us
But because
because we're
we're
so
paid,
bad at being police.
but we're paid for by the criminals. So,
That's pretty much right, actually. But let's talk about where we go from here,
mhm.
because these bubbles, you know, seem to be deflating. And, we've had the OA bubble has been deflating for years, right?
Yeah, I think you and I can admit that very freely. I don't know how many others would, but all the signs are there, right?
Right. Yeah. Plan S is basically a failure. Funders have pulled out. Gold OA is condemned by even the advocates of it as being problematic.
Well, because
Publisher,
they're trying to, so the funders are pulling, Planis is failing because it was a
it was doomed
wild
from the start.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
The funders are pulling out in favor of preprints, so they don't
Right.
even have to participate in
Yeah.
the publishing.
Yeah. It's like if you don't
And
care, we won't care more.
right.
Yeah. We won't
Um,
care harder.
yeah, yeah. And we have more money.
That's
Um,
right.
and gold OA is condemned by many because it isn't it isn't sustainable, but the alternatives that are being promoted are diamond OA.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
But as you and I noted when we looked at a couple of publisher financial statements recently, and their publishers are quietly returning to recurring revenues. They're kind of like,
Mhm.
you know, "Okay, we're not going to make a big deal out of this." It's like my favorite story about McDonald's is when they gradually reduced the sugar and salt content in their food to help with America's, you know, blood pressure and diabetes problems. And they never told anybody. They just did it. It was a huge public health intervention they never told anybody about. And I think the publishers are doing that with OA now. They're kind of like, let's just gradually shift to a healthier diet and reduce the blood pressure a little.
But are they're not doing that for public health. They're doing that for
No, they're doing it for good business reasons, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they were as socially conscious as McDonald's. That's how bad it's gotten. So, and then you have the NIH public access policy.
Right. Again, just to reiterate, NIH has traditionally provided, what is it, 45% of the global research
Hmm.
funding.
Right,
Um, and and they've clawed back on the funding and they've pushed forward on the make everything free.
right, right. And also they're lowering standards. They're eliminating outside peer reviewers for grant applications. They're basically bringing it again. It gets back to the centralization mode, right? These people are
Hmm.
trying to centralize science in the hands of a few relatively, well, not relatively, purely corrupt people
Yeah.
who aren't, you know, have agendas and aren't about supporting scientists, but usurping them. So, and then, you know, the flattening of OA has been pointed out by a number of analysts, Delta Think and Rick Anderson and others. Disclosure requirements
What
around
do you what do
APCs
you
are mounting. Oh, sorry.
what do you mean by the flattening of OA?
Well, the line is not as steep as it used to be. It's starting to either flatten or go down as far as the percent of papers being published OA.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, there are more
You could also
disclosure
say
requirements.
maybe
Oh,
it's
sorry.
hit a wall.
Yeah, hit a paywall.
Yeah.
There are more disclosure
Hopefully.
requirements coming out with COPE and one other group in Europe, I think.
Hmm.
And, you know, like you said, preprints are being promoted as self-serve alternatives. And yeah, it's just it's feeling like end stage OA in a way.
Hmm.
You know, they're running out of ideas. Diamond is not sustainable. S2O is not, you know, not going to be a big deal. And, you know, all the problems are right in front of our face. So it feels like end stage OA. It feels like that's going to continue to deflate. How quickly? I think it'll be gradual. But then we have the consumer AI bubble, right?
Yes, and that's getting more and more press every day. And the the broader economic of how these companies have been working are becoming more and more, you know, talked about. So the parallels are clear.
Right, right. But you have a bunch of circular deals. The Ronnie Chang bit on The Daily Show was absolutely fantastic. One of the best graphics of circular finances ever.
Yeah.
And how hurt he was that nobody knew he was the villain in Megan was also totally awesome. Ronnie Chang, we love you. You're one of the best. That Daily Show cast is just one of the best. But you know, Ed Zitron and others have been pointing out, you know, they not only call it an AI bubble, they're calling it an AI black hole
Hmm.
because it is such a huge part of the economy that when the event horizon is crossed, it's gonna suck a lot of things into it and a lot of 401ks as well. But you have unsustainable chip sales, you have chips that are aging out because of planned obsolescence. You have the circular finances. You have no strong consumer uptake. You have desperate maneuvers and various kinds from state actors and commercial actors. And then the harms are outweighing the benefits.
Yeah, we can see the bad parts of it. Just like with OA, we can see the bad parts, but we don't have evidence of the good.
Right. Yeah, what was the story I was just reading in Louisiana? They agreed to build a huge data center for Meta, right?
Mm.
And it's worth billions of dollars. And if they'd had to pay taxes on the equipment and chips they were bringing in, it'd be $3.3 billion in tax revenue, enough to support all the police for 10 years in the state, or to hire, pay all the teachers for, build all these high schools, do all this stuff, right? But Louisiana said, nah, you don't have to pay any taxes, just bring it in. It's going to create like 300 jobs.
Oh no.
I mean, it's really again the I can't believe how people just worship these tech barons like they're the next, like they deserve to be worshipped. These are commercial actors, people. It's big tech. They make them pay taxes. So anyhow, it's just a very sad story. But yeah, so there, all these stories are people are really watching the finances of the AI players. They're really, Ed Zitron is openly calling for people to send him pictures of chips sitting in factories and warehouses unused, gathering dust. And I think someone will finally cough up a big picture for him.
Hmm.
And it's going to be, and
Well,
that's
at
when
this,
yeah, but already
yeah.
stocks are falling, right? So,
Hmm.
yeah.
Well, and at the same time, we've got the virtual pictures of scientific papers that are piling up, gathering dust, even though they keep getting paid for over and over and over again, with no utility.
Yep. Yep. So combine these two things, and you've got, perhaps the worst example is iChive, AIchive,
Yeah,
iChive.
you alerted me to this the other day, and I looked at it for just a second. What are these kids doing?
So it's
AI
PhD
Chive?
students, AIchive, iChive. I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't think they really thought much through it all. But they had what's her name? Something, Rachel So. So they
Oh,
had all these papers published by an AI scientist with an actual biography named Rachel So, and then she had a human editor, or some sort of like a chaperone, almost like a human chaperone,
mm,
and it made it very. And they thought that made it clear that she was a bot, right? That she was
right.
an AI agent, and no, it did not, especially when you write a biography of her. And so that based on that biography, I asked ChatGPT to draw a picture of her, and it did. And and then I made it, make her look like a ghost, and it did, because these things are burlesques and toys. But they're having papers generated by AI and evaluated by AI to post on a preprint server so that other AIs can scrape them. And this is the drinking your own bathwater thing at scale, right? And
Yeah, and
it's ridiculous.
well, it just screams of this is a uh MIT student project that is a thought experiment that should have gotten an F if there was a professor.
Well, it's also, I think it's research fraud. They're
Oh
presenting
yeah.
an agent as
Well,
a
that's why it
person, and
should
they're
get an
assigning
F.
papers to it. But the other interesting thing is, you look at Rachel So's papers,
Mhm.
and they are all about how people should be more accepting of AI written papers.
Well, yeah, duh. Otherwise, she's
She's
not
looking out
here.
for herself, people. This Rachel, she's all about. It's always about Rachel, Rachel, Rachel.
Oh my God, what an egotistical fake scientist.
And then he had the NEJM implementation we talked about earlier, where I could make it lie, I could make it move decimal points, I could make it add percentages in summaries, I could make it write letters to Santa Claus and Harry Potter. Springer
And the
Nature
and the
keeps
point
fumbling. Oh, go ahead.
but on the NEJM one, the point of that is to, provide an added service to readers to use AI to
Yeah, I
not
mean,
have
this
to
is where we
read? Like,
the
what? Why is it there?
yeah, I know. This is, it's like all of these, blockchain and crypto and all these things. It's like either it's almost like Silicon Valley is building things for bad actors, and legitimate uses are not sized up. And I think that if you look at the legitimate uses of this, they aren't there. It's very
Hmm.
low value software in that way. And it's not a good product because there are summaries of articles, they're called abstracts
Right.
that are there already
Yeah.
and they've been edited to be accurate
Mm-hmm.
and fair. And so, why do you need this thing? Maybe
Because you're,
because you needed to close a budget gap and you wanted some money from Anthropic. I
yeah.
don't know. I don't think there's an epistemic reason to have one of those. And I think my, what I was trying to show is that there's no epistemic reason to have
Yeah.
this there. There's no
Yeah.
reason that doesn't advance
It's
knowledge. It
easier
just
to
screws things
get
up.
to get bad than good out of
Yeah. Yep.
these things.
Yep. So there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. You
Hmm.
have, deals and real academics and scientists are trying to fight the hype, but it's just not
Hmm.
working. So,
And then there's also the whole vertical vendor marketplace
mm,
that is feeding off of all of this.
right,
We have a new AI solution to the AI problem that was caused.
right,
And the number of submissions as being an indicator of inventory for the whole market keeps
right.
going up, which gives more fuel to more companies to create more things to try to not make them. I don't know.
Yeah. So where do we go from here? I think, we were talking about what if there's a double bubble pop, right?
Hmm.
What if the OA bubble and the AI bubble pop more or less simultaneously? People finally just say, okay, what if RFK goes too far in launching OA journals out of the NIH that are full of crap and shows that, he becomes a predatory publisher?
Hmm.
I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. And people say, okay, this business model is not just another business model, it's corrupt. And anyone who approaches the public with free scientific claims is, not to be
Is
trusted. And we're going to go
suspect.
back, right? We're going to
Well,
go back
right.
to
Just
not doing this.
I mean, and they've laid a lot of groundwork for these notions to start to get traction. Like we were talking to Beth Jacobs about last week. It's like we can't trust them on anything. So
Mm-mm,
why would we trust them on the best way to publish or the best way to curate scientific information?
right.
Um,
Well, and they have the Genesis project, and they're going to use synthetic data. I was just reading something today where there's a survey tool that's going to start creating synthetic panels. So you don't actually have to go ask real people what they want. You can just ask a synthetic panel what your questions, and you'll get answers, and you can be done with your research project. I mean, it's just
oh, that's
ridiculous
so
what's going
cute.
on.
Do we get to, can we
You
audition
can,
to be avatars for these panels? Like, how
well,
many versions of Kent and Joy would you like on your synthetic panel?
what it made me reminded me of what brought to much funny what associative thinking does and how your mind works. It reminded me of watching my daughter talk to her dolls when she was a
Hmm.
little girl. It's like,
They
oh,
all,
yeah, what do you think, Barbie? What do you think, Ken? It's like, okay, that's your synthetic panel. Your child is so childish.
but she always got the answer that she wanted in the end.
Oh yeah, it always worked out. Except when Barbie got a haircut. Oh, that was ugly. But anyhow, we won't go there. But yeah, so you've got this, what would cause these things to pop at the same time? Don't know. AI bubble might pop first.
Hmm. I think that's my hunch.
Mhm.
And
It's more fragile and
because the
exposed.
yeah, the OA bubble is has been longer in the making, and has a lot more tentacles in different economics with different players.
Hmm.
So it's not like it's going to get popped all at once, but I can definitely see that the people who are in that game are going to double down
Hmm.
while they can, because
Hmm.
these are the short-term gains. You get to cash those APC checks and continue to create your inventory
Yeah.
for somebody else to deal with down the line, should that need to happen.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that, I hope some of the big brands learn their lesson and pivot away from some of this nonsense. But again, the financial aspects of it, both the AI and the OA make it so it's going to probably be a 2 to 3 year project at the least to really pivot away gracefully.
Hmm.
What would be interesting if there's consumer reaction, which can be more of like a cliff, right? If
Hmm.
everybody says, this, paying to publish is gross and we're not going to do it and it's unnecessary. You do your job and we're not going to pay you to do that.
And so by consumers, you mean whom?
Authors.
Yes.
Yeah. If authors just, and I think they have been, that's part of the reason I think the curve is flattening, is authors are starting to say, why am I paying you to evaluate and publish my article? Or why am I going to this, my hunch that OA journals were second or third tier was right.
Hmm.
Or the APCs have gotten too high, or it's
But
not
I
working.
don't, for the authors who are really going to care, I don't know that it has ever been about the money. It's been
Right,
about, am I contributing to something good or am I contributing to something bad? And it used
right.
to be, if I published in a subscription journal, then I'm contributing to something bad. And
Hmm.
the difference now is by publishing open access, you're contributing to something bad.
Right. Well, and we've seen a lot more editor rebellions over OA pressures, quantity pressures, and the pressures to accept second, second and third tier papers in order to keep the flow going high. And so I think there's, resistance at that level too.
Hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think we're in a bubble, a double bubble.
Well, and we can see in the short term, there's a lot more pop-up publishing going on.
Hmm.
Spin up new special issues on certain topics. Let's launch new journals, especially
Right.
in the
Pay to play
review journal
review
space.
journals. Ugh.
Oh,
Don't do that.
we, I don't
Don't
even
do
want
it,
to go
Springer
there
Nature.
today.
Stop.
It's too much. But
Yeah, I
and
want to
then
pause on that one for just a second because
okay.
there's not only what Springer Nature is proposing to do, which is they're starting a pay to play review journal, which is bad enough, right?
Hmm.
But the permissioning that creates across the market is 10 times as bad because all the light bulbs are going off in all the predatory publishers.
No, I'm gonna correct you on that. They've been doing it forever.
Oh, true.
They have flooded the zone with review papers, and Springer Nature is now just gonna jump on the
So they're
bandwagon.
like they
This
did with
is
MDPI.
Yeah, it's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Oh, you
Nobody
people.
needs more review papers. But now
No.
they're like, well, they're getting paid for it. Why don't we? We'll just charge
Yeah,
a
you're
little bit
right.
more.
You're right. Uh, what happened to the brands we used to admire?
But
So
all of
sad.
this goes to feed into how a lot of the big publishers have been rebranding themselves,
Hmm.
especially with their shareholders. Is they're not calling themselves publishers; they're calling themselves um, tech companies and data brokers, and um, and that gives them, I think, marketplace permission
Hmm.
to not participate in the publishing standards that require doing less.
Right.
And so part of all of this is to justify creating more and diversifying what you are as a company.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the research integrity game is they've pushed them. But research integrity used to be core to these companies. Now they're saying
It,
it's peripheral.
well,
It's an afterthought.
Well, I guess it is when you have to create a department and call it that when it used to be everybody's job,
Hmm. Yeah. So I
right?
think I think that's part and parcel with that rebranding and reconceptualization of the company.
Well, and we've seen this before, right? We've seen this with Google and
Hmm.
Facebook when they
Hmm.
create a oversight board or a safety, zone, they separate it and then you can
Then you can
cut it
manage it.
off.
Yeah, you can manage it
Or then
however
you
you
can
want,
just
or
say, no,
ignore
we
it,
don't do
or
this anymore.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a step function, you know. It's a
Mhm.
step in a certain direction and not a good one. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. So we'll have to watch this and see what goes on. I think, we would recommend that the smart publishers see this coming and pivot into things like metered paywalls and other ways of selling subscription access.
Mhm.
Make a bigger deal out of your carefully vetted stuff, market as such, and do it on social media and other places. Find ways to do that.
Focus on your communities, on your members, who are your core authors, who are your core readers who are depending on you,
Right.
and
Yep.
focus
And
on
fight
them.
fight the slop.
Hmm.
Don't be a part of it. All right. So shall we move on to discoveries of the week? I know we've got some good ones.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So discoveries of the week. I'm gonna go first because I got two. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So my first one was that I rediscovered yet again. I keep rediscovering this, and I love rediscovering it. That bookstores are the best book retailing experience you can ask for because there's nothing like wandering the shelves, browsing the subject areas, seeing book covers, interacting with books. I always discover a book that I didn't know existed, and I always find one that I just it's just so nice. It's
Hmm.
just so pleasant and it's so instructive. I went to the science section of our local bookstore and I found so many science books that I didn't know existed,
Well,
even though I'm on Amazon all the time.
that's what I was just going to say. The physical organization for human beings in person um, is that's the curation
Hmm.
that we need
Hmm.
cognitively, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's front facing, what's spine facing, and what's on the display tables up front, and what's
Hmm.
kind of tucked away, and which covers kind of beckon to you for whatever reason, and and then it's a great it's handling the book. I'm a big fan of book manufacturing
Hmm.
technologies. I love jagged paper, and I like good book you know slip cases, and I like really high quality paperbacks, and I love all that stuff. So it was just a great experience. So that's my first discovery. And the second makes me sad because it's in the process of mourning the murder of Rob Reiner and his wife. You reflected on all the great movies that he made: The Princess Bride, A Few Good Men, When Harry Met Sally, Stand By Me, Misery. But in the midst of that, I discovered a delightful little nugget, which is that he co wrote the first episode of Happy Days, which I didn't know.
I didn't know that. I thought I didn't was that before or after All in the Family, or
It was
was it around
after, it
the
was coming
same
out around the
time?
same time. I think he was
Yeah.
coming out of All in the
Yeah.
Family and starting to,
Hmm.
become a bigger deal
And find
as
his
an
own
artist.
voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it's definitely pre-Spinal Tap. I mean, let's be
Mm.
clear.
Well.
But I mean, what a creative and lovely person, and a very sad event. But you just all the things he contributed to our shared consciousness, and the speech in A Few Good Men is still, I mean, that's going to be quoted for decades. Because and maybe that should be our mantra. You can't handle the truth. You know. But anyhow, so those are my discoveries of the week.
Well, this morning's episode of the New York Times The Daily podcast focused on Rob Reiner, and I thought they did an excellent job.
Mm.
and it was mostly you know, about not focusing on how he died or why, but more about who he was. But there was some really good background on kind of his career and what he had achieved and why his movies are so resonant with us as viewers, even though they were not critically acclaimed at the time.
Hmm.
So I thought that was really fascinating.
Yeah. All right. You have one?
I do. Um, so I I play the New York Times. Speaking of the New York Times, I play the connections puzzle. It's
Hmm.
pretty much the first thing I do
Is
when
that the
I wake
crossword
up.
puzzle?
Nope.
Nope. I
Nope.
don't know this one then. Okay.
Okay. So Connections is it came out a couple years ago, and the editor author is just a fascinating person that I'm so curious about how her brain works. But so it's a grid of it's 4 by 4. So
Okay.
there's 16 words or phrases in a square.
Okay.
And your job is to create four um, four tiers of connections between these 16 words.
Okay.
And they are ranked by there's a in terms of difficulty of how these four terms are related.
Okay. Okay.
So it could be something super easy, right? It's
Right.
like four things that are clearly baseball, or
Right.
it could be something very hard. It's like these all have if you take off one letter and replace it with another, then it's going to mean something else.
Right.
Um, and so it's a cognitive, it's a purely human cognitive exercise in wordplay, associations, and just kind of organizing things in ways that you wouldn't necessarily get at first glance. And so my discovery is that this last week, the New York Times uh, published an article from an engineer who is trying to use AI to crack this game,
Hmm.
and it can't. Um,
Beautiful.
there's no way to teach an LLM to understand the very intricate nuances and fascinating and also funny. Like there's a lot of
Hmm.
humor in it as well.
Hmm.
And it's these little delightful, like little things that just go like, oh yeah. Um,
Well, if you
and
ever
so,
talk to the editor of this, I'm curious to know if it's she, right? If
mhm.
she was inspired by the James Burke show called Connections, which was a science show from the 70s and
I think,
80s.
right, this came up recently. I think there must be. Um, So I'm just going to end with a quote from the article that says, Connections is a game made by humans for humans with a point of view and a sense of humor. The ability of our minds to master this craft is due not only to language, but also to our evolution as a species. When it comes to tasks like word association, our 3 pound brain can still compete with a 1 million pound data center. So
And beat it. I can make it write letters to Santa Claus.
not even, yeah, not even compete. We can
We
beat
can
it.
trounce it. We can trounce it. That's a great one. I'm gonna have to try that game. That sounds like a lot of fun because I love that James Burke show and I love
Hmm.
teasing out these kinds of things. It's great. And you do it when you wake up.
Yep.
That's why you're always a lot smarter than I am by 8 a.m. Dang it.
Well, and then
I
I
got to
do,
catch up. Your
well, then
secret's
I
out,
do,
Joy.
and then I do the connections, and then I do the spelling bee, and
Okay.
then
Then
I'm
you're good
ready
to go.
to read the news.
Sounds like a good way to wake up. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. We are heading toward the end of the year. We're going to take next week off, and then we're going to do a wrap up show on New Year's Eve. So we'll wrap up the year. It's our first season. I think we've done 32 or 33 episodes, something like that. Can you believe it? Unbelievable.
Hmm.
And great guests.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little recap at the end of the year. Thanks to our friends at Provoke the Truth for the music. And as always, let us know what you think. If you want some merch, email us. We'll be happy to work with you on that. You can also keep up with developments at the Geyser, where you can subscribe to support our efforts. And you can reach us at disruptedscience@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and thanks for listening.
Bye.